Now at 10, this is Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
Well, advocates say they're sick of the violence in Connecticut, especially after a shooting and stabbing over the weekend at a funeral.
And tonight, calls for peace and safety are echoing across Hartford. Thanks for joining us for the Fox 61 News at 10. I'm Brent Harden.
And I'm Sarah Sanchez. A vigil was held because of what's happened in Hartford over the past week. First, police are calling an ambush shooting on Nelson Street and a violent fight at a funeral.
Also today, neighbors gathered for a summit to discuss what they want to see in the city's next police chief. Fox 61's Angelo Bavaro also spoke with the mayor on all these issues.
Hartford Mayor Arunan Arulampalam says the numbers show there is progress being made on getting a grip on violence in the city, but still there is work to be done. These community leaders agree.
So Lord, we come right now and asking you to free us from all this violence.
A show of unity Tuesday outside a sacred space turned scene of chaos.
If somebody can bring a gun to a funeral, that means that's the lowest disrespect that you can have.
The group Mothers United Against Violence hosted a vigil with community leaders at the church where police say last week a fight between family members at a funeral spiraled into a shooting and stabbing.
The evil that entered into this church this past weekend is an evil that's been saturating this community for years.
For Pastor Samuel Saylor, the pain is personal.
Losing my son and my grandson to gun violence, seeing many others lose their life before their time. And so I always come to these opportunities to stand up against violence.
What we need to work on is getting those guns off our streets, because people don't respect guns and then they don't respect life.
We've worked to both expand the physical presence of police officers, getting more patrol officers on the street, getting more walk beats on the street, and also, invest in many of the community groups that are working to prevent violence.
Hartford Mayor Arunan Arulampalam points to work being done to get violence down.
Last year was the safest year on record, the lowest number of shooting victims that we've had on record in the city of Hartford.
Just a half-mile away from the vigil, gun violence prevention and other issues facing the city were also in focus at the North Hartford Public Safety Summit.
Over 100 people to voice their opinion.
A packed room listened as community input was shared amid the city's search for a new police chief.
They want someone who's familiar with Hartford. They want someone who understands the issues in Hartford and can connect.
I feel like the youth needs a lot of support.
Mayor Arulampalam says the city is listening.
We have a community advisor group that's looking at the first round of candidates.
Mayor Arulampalam says the city is hoping to announce a new police chief in July and then have some time for the public to vet that person before that candidate is submitted to the city council. Reporting in Hartford, I'm Angelo Bavaro, Fox 61.
The Office of Inspector General is investigating the death of a woman while in Waterbury police custody. And here's what we're told so far. 29-year-old Alyssa Insonia was arrested on May 9th on Willow Street for possession of fentanyl and heroin. It was later determined Insonia also had active arrest warrants elsewhere. She was held at the Waterbury police station and remained in their custody pending a May 12th court date. However, investigators say the morning of May 10th, detention workers checked on Insonia and observed her to be awake. They checked on her again at noon, and they said she appeared to be asleep, and then checked on her again just before 2:30, and that's when they found her to be unresponsive. The medical team was called, but she was pronounced dead. The chief medical examiner is working on an autopsy and toxicology report to determine exactly how she died.
If you'd like to learn more about today's top headlines, just scan the QR code there on your screen and download the free Fox 61 News app.
We've got some rain on the way as we head through the coming days. Looks like as we head through the evening tonight, most of the rain, which looks like it's trying to move in right now, will actually be held back by some dry air. So we're going to look out just a little while longer. Here's a look at the radar closer to home, and you can actually see that rain struggling to make it down to the ground in Connecticut itself. But as we head through the overnight hours, there could be a couple light showers or sprinkles, but there's going to be a better chance for some of those showers as we head through the day tomorrow. Tomorrow is not going to rain from start to finish, but you will at least be reaching for your umbrella from time to time. Overnight lows will be in the 50s as we head towards daybreak. Tomorrow it is overcast, and we're looking at, again, some light showers off and on, cooler temperatures. Highs will generally be in the middle to upper 60s as we head through the afternoon. And there is a chance for a couple of heavier downpours as we head into tomorrow evening and overnight. And then Thursday, I think, is drier than tomorrow, but still a chance for a couple lingering scattered showers. We'll explain. We'll talk about how long this unsettled stretch of weather will last coming up in just a bit.
All right, Rachel, thank you. Well, new tonight, we are digging deeper into the report released by the Office of Inspector General that was done for a police-involved shooting investigation in New London.
It happened almost 2 years ago. The Inspector General says the officers were justified in the use of deadly force.
Fox 61's Valerie Moravi has more from the report, including footage from the officers' body cameras.
The Office of Inspector General has cleared all New London police officers of a criminal wrongdoing of a case dating back to November of 2023. Now, the Inspector General said all 3 officers were justified in the use of deadly force when they shot a man inside a hotel. Police! Police body camera footage lays out the moment that led to an officer-involved shooting in New London almost 2 years ago. According to the report, on November 26 of 2023, officers Joseph Knott, Seth Bolduc, and Anna Agnew responded to shots being fired at 1:52 p.m. at the America's Best Value Inn on 380 Bayonet Street. Once they got there, police find out the suspect had gone to Clarion Inn next door. Police went up to room 221 of the Clarion Inn, and that's where officers found Christopher Nolan standing near a window in the room, right behind the curtain. Police reported a woman and several children were in the hotel room at the time officers confronted Nolan. One officer can be heard saying he could see Nolan with a revolver, pointing it in their direction. That's when 3 officers opened fire, hitting Nolan multiple times. We've stuffed the video right before the moment when the officers fired their weapons, as it's too graphic to show. One officer had to use a stun gun before Nolan could be taken into custody. Police say they later recovered a loaded revolver from the windowsill of the room.
I'm gonna pull it. Where's the gun? I think it's right here. Gun's right here. Gun's right here. That's fine.
Nolan was at the hospital for nearly 2 weeks following the shooting. A toxicology report showed Nolan tested positive for cocaine and cannabinoid. He was in court last week on charges related to the shooting. Now, the Office of Inspector General concluded they will take no further action on this matter. In Hartford, Valerie Moravi, Fox 61.
All right, Valerie, thank you. Well, there's a smelly situation in the air in the town of Summers, and that's putting it lightly. People in town are raising their voices over a plan to allow a farm to create what many are calling simply a manure pit.
The farm has been given the go-ahead to add an irrigation pond, but hasn't been without some pushback from the people. Fox 61's Kate Pattyfoot has more from a jam-packed meeting in Summers.
There's a plan to bring a manure pit to the town of Summers by this irrigation pond near Oak Ridge Dairy. People are calling this plan a certain kind of show, if you catch my drift. Neighbors tell me this is going to impact their home value. They say it's going to be smelly, and they're also worried about their wells.
Ellington allowed this. Ellington embraced it. Ellington should keep it. I don't think the town of Summers.
Emotions were very high Tuesday night at a zoning appeals meeting in Summers. That could be summed up in one word: messy.
And you want this in a town? Hell no.
Oak Ridge Dairy is adding an irrigation pond on Watchog Road. That pond would allow the farm to collect manure and help their farming processes. But needless to say, people in town aren't looking forward to what's being dubbed by many as a manure lagoon.
It's impossible to be outside in the spring because of the smell. It seems toxic.
Cows give out manure. How do we know these cows are healthy? We don't. Pathogens, viruses, parasites. Contaminations of private drinking wells. He did an excellent job with the clay lining. If it cracks, Where's the water? He said 3,000 gallons a day.
Nearby neighbors like James says this is not what farmland in town was intended for.
8,000 cows going in the bathroom, I assume quite a bit. You know, you'd smell it all the time. Like now today with the wind blowing from the south. When it goes from the north, you wouldn't smell it that much, but you know, this is summertime and this type of weather, you're going to get this. It's from the south. The wind's blowing from the south.
Oak Ridge Dairy lawyers argue this is not storage for manure.
The intent of why this pond is being dug is for irrigation purposes, and that was clearly disclosed in the dialogue with the town.
Well, that was Kay Patty Foote reporting. The town of Summers is expected to make a decision on this matter, and the Planning and Zoning Board Appeals Committee is voting as we speak, and Kay will have another update on those results coming up next hour on the Fox 61 News at 11.